All right. And we're all set?
Yeah, we are all live, so we'll just
Excellent.
wait for people start coming in.
Okay. And
You
then,
probably give them an extra 5 minutes. You know, people always pile in. Right, they'll start piling in at 9 a.m. of course, and then it'll take them a little bit to join.
okay. All right. That sounds good.
I do see there's a private chat feature here that I haven't seen before. I think it's new. Let me see. I think if you and I just want to chat, we can chat here. I'm curious if you'll get like a message on your screen.
Got it.
Cool. Yeah. So apparently, yeah, this is new. I haven't seen this before. I guess we can
Okay.
chat here in case you have any concerns or anything like that.
Okay. That sounds good.
How long have you lived in Florida?
So I've lived on this side for, oh my goodness, since 2014. I guess it has been a while. Um, yeah. So I lived on the other side for about 7 years, and then I moved to Texas. Um, and then I moved back over here on this side. So, yeah.
And which do you prefer, Texas or Florida?
Wow. So that's a good one. I love Texas. I absolutely loved living there, but I did miss the ocean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to Austin and I loved it as well.
Yeah.
And same as you, I was like, I could definitely live here, but the lack of ocean,
Yeah.
it
Dry,
makes it
right? And
hard. Yeah.
extreme. And that heat, the heat is, I mean, Florida doesn't have anything on Texas, right? The heat is, I mean, it is really dry and really hot. Even the summers were substantially warmer than it feels here. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. I see we have people joining. Welcome,
All right.
everyone.
Good morning or good evening.
Yeah, exactly. I think we probably have people from all over the world. As you're
Excellent.
joining, yeah, just feel free to throw in the chat where you're from. Yeah, so it looks like we got some people from Argentina, Virginia.
Virginia.
Yeah. I used to live in Virginia. I used to live in Reston, Virginia.
Ah, okay.
It's like a northern Virginia area.
It's probably beautiful this time of year up there, I'm sure. With all the leaves changing. I miss
That's
that.
true. Yeah, yeah. Do you miss the Four Seasons?
I do.
That's what I keep hearing from everyone that's like living in uh, summer places like Florida. I've
Yeah.
only lived here for 2 years, but I feel like people that have lived here for longer, they say they'll start missing the seasons at some point.
Yeah, it's funny, you move out of a cold climate only to, in some odd shape or form, miss that, or at least miss the change in seasons.
Yeah, that's
It's
funny.
that subtle reminder that things are changing and the year's progressing
Yeah.
that you don't have that reminds you. So, yeah.
So yeah, so interesting. Until you have to wake up and clean your car with from ice, right? At 6 a.m. in
Exactly.
the morning, then you're like, I'm out of here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome. We're going to be starting a little bit after 9 a.m. because everyone is just joining us. Please let us know where you're from as you're joining the chat. Hey Lucas, how is the weather in Argentina? Starting spring. Getting hot. Yeah, Argentina is one place I've never been that I would love to go to.
I know. I have not been to Argentina myself either, but I'm sure it would be quite interesting. I worked with a client not too long ago from Argentina, interestingly enough. That was a marketing professional. And then he moved over to the States, and his main objective was to get back
To
back
get
to
back to
Argentina.
Argentina.
Yeah,
Oh,
to be closer to friends and family. So we looked for positions over in that area. Yeah,
oh wow.
yeah, it was a lot of fun working with him.
Oh, very
Very,
cool.
very intelligent guy, and very family focused individual. So yeah.
Very cool. Good to know. Lucas, you're saying the YouTube video stopped? Interesting. Let me take a look quickly at YouTube. What's going on? Hmm. Hey, Lucas, looks like YouTube is working okay for me. I wonder, yeah, I wonder if maybe your internet connection or something. Hey everyone, welcome, welcome. We will be starting in maybe 1 or 2 more minutes to give everyone a chance to join in. Um, in the meantime, let us know where you're from. Heather and I are coincidentally both from Florida. She's from like northern Florida, right close to Sarasota, and I'm from southern Florida, close to Fort Lauderdale. Cool, getting more people in here.
All right.
Give them a few more minutes. Maybe one more minute. Is that okay, Heather?
Sure. Nope. Absolutely. Let's wait.
Sounds great. And I know more people will even join once we start too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Always happens like that. Hey everyone, welcome, welcome. We will be starting in about 1 minute. Okay, awesome. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to this live stream presentation, How to Interview with Find My Profession. Today on the call we have Heather Lewis. She is a career coach with Find My Profession. Heather equips job seekers with essential skills, knowledge, and strategies to help them navigate through a job search and interview process successfully. She's passionate about motivating and empowering others to achieve their personal career goals. Prior to joining Find My Profession, she was a senior recruiter for one of the largest RPOs in the world. Heather has over 10 years of experience recruiting, interviewing, and training entry-level, mid-level, and senior professionals, and has managed staffing and hiring efforts on corporate, agency, and RPO side. So I am sure that she will have a lot to share with you all and help you all get better development and automation jobs. So with all of that said, Heather, please take it away.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate the introduction. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. All right. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about, obviously, how to interview. And there are a number of factors that we're going to discuss and consider here when we talk about interviewing and the interview process. But most importantly, what we're going to cover today is going to be about interview preparation, interview etiquette, what hiring managers think, what their hidden concerns are, recruiters, what their concerns are. We're also going to talk about common interview questions that you should and could prepare for. We're going to talk about situational questions, how you might recognize those. what type of questions may be asked in an interview that are situational related. We're also going to talk about questions that you should consider asking on the interview. And we're also going to talk about what you should not ask on the interview. So we'll go over these things, and then we'll also even cover the topic of thank you letters, which is an important part of post-interview preparation. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to start with some of the basics. Interview etiquette. It sounds so plain and simple, and it seems so blatantly obvious, right? Dress the part, dress for success. But the truth is, it's extremely important whether you are sitting in front of someone or whether you're sitting in a Zoom chat room, that you dress the part from the top to the bottom. So it's always best, obviously, to wear a suit and tie regardless. Even if you're walking into an interview and you know the environment is casual, it doesn't matter. Dress the part. The interviewer expects you to come in professional, and plus it's a proven fact that we just feel better when we look the part too. So suit and tie. If you don't have a suit and tie in your closet or a nice dress in your closet, then at least dress in a professional wardrobe so that others will take you seriously. Friendly and approachable. That, again, it seems obvious, right? Who wouldn't want to be friendly and approachable? But how you present yourself in a manner, whether you are outgoing or not, that part doesn't really play into, it doesn't matter. It's not that your personality has to be lively and exciting, although sometimes that can be a good thing. It just means that you need to be approachable, no crossed arms. Your arms should be open and inviting. Be confident. How do you display confidence on an interview? The obvious part is that part of it comes with your posture and your demeanor. If you're in a slouched position and you're looking down, that indicates someone has a bit of fear or concern or reluctance. And so being confident really is just a demonstration of, or demonstrating your confidence really starts with your posture, chin up, and being able to look at someone eye to eye. Control your hands. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes that people make. So in an interview, again, it's easier to do this through video interviews. It's easier to control your hands, right? You can quite literally sit on your hands if you need to. But in a face-to-face interview, obviously that's not an option. What I mean by control your hands, it's easy. We all have nervous gestures. We all get nervous. Some of us may move our hands erratically, or we might do something that indicates that we are a bit nervous. If you have an issue with your hands, if you're not quite sure what to do with them, simply fold them and put them in your lap, or cross your hands, or sit here with your hands folded on your leg, or resting on the table is even fine too. So more and more interviews are being conducted, obviously, in a virtual setting. So what does that mean for us? And again, some of the obvious things here are interview preparation is so incredibly important when it comes to your live video feed. Your sound quality needs to be checked. Bandwidth has to be there. So obviously, of the internet, of the world of things that we have plugged in, it's always best to disconnect any devices that you are not currently using so that you have maximum bandwidth for your interview. Lighting is important. Lighting behind you is going to help your video feed look better. So the lighting behind you, or excuse me, the lighting behind your camera, I should say, not behind you. So lighting in front of you, not behind you. And obviously a professional setting. So something as simple as a picture behind you, or a file book, or a file case, or something that doesn't indicate your kitchen shouldn't be in the background. It shouldn't be a non-professional setting. So the more professional setting, the better. And obviously do a test run. All right, so interview etiquette. Today I want to talk a little bit about, before we get started here, on what things that we should do in an interview. I think it's best to understand what recruiters and hiring managers, what their main concerns are. And what I mean by this is some of these questions are obvious, and some of these will be asked in an interview, but some are not so obvious. And so when we talk about concerns, what we're talking about is yes, some of these are going to be concerns that they will readily address, and then some of these are going to be concerns that they are still thinking and that you need to address in the interview, whether these questions are asked or not. So make sure that you walk in and you're consciously aware of the questions and concerns that they really do have. So when we talk about recruiting in HR, it's really a matter of checking the box. I was a recruiter for 10 plus years, and I can tell you that when I hired for positions, whether it was entry level, mid level, senior level, my most important concern was, number one, did they check the boxes? Did they meet the basic requirements? Did they meet the educational requirements? And did they meet the experience level, the number of years, or the amount of experience that was required for the role? My other concerns might have been related to whether or not the hiring manager had a specific concern, in which case I would address. So a specific concern might be, okay, if they've worked with Java, what exactly have they done? Right? What have they done and how have they used it, so that I can see if it's a good fit for them? And that question would come up, so you'd be consciously aware of it. They would bring it up in the interview with the recruiter. Some of the other concerns, though, do you communicate well? That's probably not going to be asked, right? I rarely would ask that question as a recruiter if you have good communication skills, but that's something that I would be silently kind of checking the box for. So being confident, being comfortable, communicating well, and demonstrating that you are a good communicator is extremely important to a recruiter or HR professional. What does your current employment history reflect? And again, this is probably not going to be a question that is going to be asked, but it is a concern. And the reason is hiring costs are astronomical. It is really expensive to hire someone, to train someone, and to replace someone. And so the recruiter needs to do his or her due diligence and make sure that um, that your employment history is solid. And if it's not solid, if there are gaps, for instance, on your resume, that it is explainable. Gaps are just unfortunately a part of life, right? We have gaps in our resumes. Some of us have gaps, some of us don't. But the truth is, you shouldn't be as concerned about having the gaps. What you should be more concerned about is having a story behind why you have that gap. So if you do have gaps in your resume, be prepared to answer it. Have a storyline behind it. Let them know. If you were laid off, for example, let them know that I was laid off, but I was not the only person in fact affected by the layoff. There were multiple people that were affected, and let them know that based on your career path and what you intend to do, this actually worked out to your benefit. It's to your benefit because you're sitting here right now in the interview, interviewing for the position that you want anyway, right? So have a storyline behind it. And of course, the recruiter or hiring manager is going to want to know, what do you know about the company, right? What do you know about us? Hiring manager concerns are a little bit different. So again, when we go into an interview as a job seeker, our main concerns are, well, I want this job, right? I want this salary. I want to work for this organization. I'm excited to be here, and I hope they like me. But a hiring manager's concerns are a little bit different. They have to take into consideration, obviously, the entire team, right? Do you fit into the work culture? Can you do the job, first and foremost? Are you capable, right? And if you're not, are you a quick learner? Can you pick up things relatively quickly? So, in other words, how much time do I have to invest into training you? And so, one of the things that you could potentially do in advance to address this concern is you could let them know throughout the interview and early on that you are highly trainable, right? That you have demonstrated this time and time again, that um, you have no problems learning new technology. In fact, that you catch on quick, and you could even create a storyline behind or give an example of how you've caught on extremely quickly in the past, or how you've learned a new skill or a new technology with very little ramp up time. That's impressive to a hiring manager. What are your technical skills and abilities? So again, a hiring manager is going to want to know, what are you capable of and what areas do I need to train you on? What are you walking in? What skills are you walking into the job with? And what skills are you not walking into the position with? Hiring manager, of course, is going to want to know, why do you want to work for, and it's not about the company at this point, it's about me. So why do you want to work for me? What is it about this team? What is it about this environment? What is it about our mission? And why do you want to be a part of this mission? Um, so why do you want to work for me? Do you fit in to the workplace culture? This is a big one because, again, it falls back on, are you going to stay? Are you going to be a good fit long term? Are you a team player? And do you work well with others? So, in an environment where most of us are going to have coworkers that we're going to work either side by side with or virtually with, we have to be comfortable working with others. So, again, if you know that this is a concern, having a good storyline behind how you've worked with others well in the past, how you're a team player, how you get along with people, how you handle situations that aren't necessarily the perfect situation, or any challenges that you've had in the past working with teammates or coworkers or colleagues or even students, right? Even fellow students, any challenges that you've had. An example of how you can demonstrate and how you've demonstrated success in this area in the past is going to be crucial to easing their concerns, their hidden concerns about this, or about your ability to work well with others. Can you work alone? This is important too, because the hiring manager, again, wants to know, do I have to micromanage you? I don't think I would venture to say, if I asked every one of you, do you like to be micromanaged? I'm pretty confident that the vast majority of you would say, yeah, no, micromanagement is not for me. I don't want to be micromanaged. I do just fine on my own. I can handle what I'm told to handle and I can run with it. That needs to be demonstrated to the hiring manager so that he or she knows that you can take a task and just run home with it, right? And then if you have any questions or concerns about what needs to happen, that you are fully capable of not only working on your own, but that at some point you've demonstrated that you can also seek out resources and help if you need to complete a project alone. Um, will you stay long term, or will I have to replace you in 3 months? And again, there's nothing more frustrating for a hiring manager than having to go back to the drawing board and repost a position and refill it 2, 3, or even 6 months later. It's not fun. It costs a lot of money, and hiring managers are accountable to someone too. So not only does it affect their budget, but also it affects their budget, but then also it could cause challenges with certain projects, and it just isn't good for business. So they're going to be looking for signs that you are a keeper, that you are excited about the position, and that this isn't just a stepping stone for you, that this is a position that want, you want to work for the company, and that you are going to be content in this position. All right, interview preparation. So we're going to talk a lot today about interview preparation. Uh, I think most of you, if you've gone to your first interview, your second interview, your 10th interview, your 20th interview, it doesn't matter where you are at in the process. Again, if this is your first interview, it starts with preparation. The more preparation that you can do, the more you can ease your concerns and the anxiety, right? We all have a certain level of anxiety. I don't know what yours is. Maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe your anxiety level when it comes to interview preparation is a 1, or maybe it's a 10. But the truth is, most of us have some sort of anxiety. So what can you do? Well, you can prepare for interviews, and I'm going to teach you how to prepare the right way so that you can ease your concerns. So interview preparation, the very first start is research. Research, research, research. And this doesn't mean that you research 5 minutes before you walk in to meet with the hiring manager or 5 minutes before your Zoom interview. This starts early in the process. So that moment when you get excited because you have that email that says, guess what? Congratulations, you made it to round one. You're now meeting with, so-and-so, a hiring manager or recruiter. That's when your research starts. So researching the company, well, that seems obvious, right? How do we research the company? We're going to talk about resources that we can use in a minute, but it goes well beyond just researching the company and the corporation or the organization that you might be working for. The industry itself is important. Why is the industry important? Because it's important for you to understand what's trending, what's going on, what's happening, what's current, and how you fit into the bigger picture, right? Um, the news. So news is important too. What's going on with that company right now? Is there any recent publications that I should be taking a look at? Is there any recent highlights or maybe a change in direction? Maybe they added a new product or service. I need to know more information about that. So again, so I can see where I fit into the bigger picture, right? Reviews. Reviews are important to take a look at and obviously take with a grain of salt, right? Reviews, positive, negative, or indifferent reviews of the company. And I'm talking about reviews not just from reviews from individuals who have worked for the corporation, but I'm also talking about reviews that the company has from its clients or from its customers. Why? Because again, you can get a better perception of what they're doing right and maybe areas that they get opportunities for improvement. So what are customers and clients saying about this company or this organization? What are past employees saying about the work environment and what it's like? Competition. Competition is another area that you need to take time to research. Who are the major competitors? And again, why is this important? Major competitors. What you'd want to know is who are our major competitors? Who is the company's major competitors and what are they doing differently? Maybe they're doing something better. Maybe they're doing something worse. Maybe they're shining in one area versus another area. Maybe they're expanding in a certain technology or certain department where you see growth and opportunity within this company, right? So what are they doing different? What are they doing worse? What are they doing better? Interviewers. Now, this is fantastic. If you can if you can do a little recon and investigation and find out more about the interviewers, then again, you're setting yourself up for success. So we're going to talk about resources that you can use in just a moment here that you can use to identify these interviewers and determine who they are. Obviously, it stands to reason you do have to know the individual's name or their title. But if you know you're interviewing with the director of technology, then surely that should be enough information for you to find him or her on the internet. Salary. Salary is obviously important. It's important to come prepared to know what salary range that this position offers. And so how do you find that information? Again, we're going to talk about the resources that you can use, but any information that you can uncover when it comes to salary, the better off that you're going to be so that you can walk in feeling prepared and know a justifiable range that you could potentially present when you're presented with the what is your salary or what are your salary requirements question. All right, so it starts with research, but how do we research? Where do we find these? Here are some examples of some resources that you can use. So obviously the company website is important to use. Recent news articles and press releases. So again, finding out new publications that are out and current, what's going on, what's trending, what's not. People you know. Never underestimate the power of your own network. So getting in touch with people that you know to find out if they know anything about this company, or maybe they know somebody who does. Maybe your friend doesn't directly work for this company or organization, but maybe he or she knows someone who has worked or is currently an employee of this company, right? So getting in touch with anyone and everyone that you know to find out who knows anything about this company or the environment or the team or even the industry or even the competition. Find out as much information as you can. Internet search, you can do an internet search for competitors. You can type in ABC company competitors, right? So any organization name and then the word competitors after it on a Google search will yield you results about the industry as well as the competition out there. Glassdoor is a great place to go check out reviews. Reviews on companies. On occasion, you can even find interview preparation questions. So, what previous candidates have been faced with, what questions they were directly asked. It's not always the case, but it's definitely worth checking out. You can also check out not only reviews, but salary. Glassdoor is a great place to go check out salary rates and ranges that employees have openly submitted online. And LinkedIn, finally. LinkedIn is the largest professional network out there. It is outstanding when it comes to research. And if you have the title of your interviewers or the name of the interviewers, you know their title or you know their name, go to LinkedIn, do some recon, check out their page. What you want to pay attention to the most is, number one, who your interviewer is, what their history is, how long have they been there, how long have they been in the position, what skills and experience do they have, what are their likes and dislikes. You can find a lot about a person just by reviewing their LinkedIn page. So understanding, again, their likes, their interests, who they're following, even their reviews. If they've had reviews or recommendations, on LinkedIn, then their recommendations can tell you all sorts of things about their personality. It can tell you uh, if they've had recommendations from teammates, for instance, that spell out that they are hardworking, diligent, and maybe they are a tough manager to please, but just a joy to work for. Well, you might have a little bit of information to go on how that person thinks and what their personality might be like. So definitely take the time to do it. And when you do check out their profiles on LinkedIn, my suggestion would be to not, in other words, don't set your settings up so that the interviewer can see that you've landed on their profile. I wouldn't suggest blocking that. I think it's a good thing when people see that you've done your due diligence and research. That individual will see that you've landed on their page, and that is a good thing. You shouldn't shy away or be concerned on whether or not they think that you have gone to their profile and discovered their profile. I think it's important that they know that you are doing your due diligence and that you did go to their LinkedIn page. And feel free to send them an invite while you're there, an invitation to connect. All right, so let's talk a little bit about questions you should be asking yourself. So these are questions that you should be asking yourself before you walk into any interview. Okay? How can I add value to the company? Well, that's great, but what does that really mean, right? What I mean are, this is where you literally, quite literally, want to get out your pen and paper and start writing. Okay? So part of your preparation is going to be really an investigation of yourself, questions that you can ask yourself. What are my top 3 hard skills? So hard skills are going to be, it could be your technology stack. It could be something specific to the job itself. It could be that whatever your hard skills are, they need to be obviously your top skills, but they also need to be your top 3 skills that are applicable to this particular role, right? If your top 3 skills, if one of your top skills is that you're a musician, but this is not a position in the entertainment industry, obviously that might not be relevant here, right? So top 3 skills that are relevant to the position that you're seeking. Top 3 hard skills, top 3 soft skills. So soft skills, you might be tempted to say, well, what are my soft skills? Well, I have good communication. Well, if you have good communication skills, that's excellent, but so does half the world out there. So go beyond that. I have excellent communication skills and what I mean by that is I have the ability to communicate with internal business partners. I have the ability to work in tandem with my own colleagues and then across all different departments. And not only that, but my communication skills are so outstanding that typically my department or my team or my school uses me to I demonstrate my communication skills by being a leader in communicating new changes that come across our department, our team, our student body, right? So take it a step further and not only describe your communication skills, or excuse me, your soft skills and your hard skills, but take it a step further and take the time to write down your skills and write down how you've demonstrated these skills in the past. So an example of each. My intangible value. So oftentimes the person who lands the job, it may come it and more often than not, it could come down to their intangible value. For example, candidate A and candidate B, they have the same hard skills, they have the same soft skills. So how do you make a determination on who you're going to hire for this role? Well, the obvious choice is going to be what additional value that this person might bring to the company, right? And where is that determined? It's determined on your intangible skills, your intangible value. So intangible is not something you can physically touch, right? It's an attribute or value that you possess that makes you unique and different. So for example, your intangible value might be your charisma, right? It might just be you just have that in you. You have that charisma. It might be your creativity or creativity when it comes to problem solving. Maybe you're unique, you think outside of the box. It could be that you have contacts that you can bring to this company that can make a difference in their department or with their team. It could be your reputation. Maybe your reputation precedes you. It could be your persuasiveness, or it could even be that you are typically the go-to person. Maybe you're the go-to person, or you were the go-to person in school or on your last position, where it just seemed like no matter what the situation or issue was, you were that person that the team counted on, right? You were the person that really made this happen or made the project become a success. Um, so in your tangible value is not something that you typically offer up in an interview. In other words, you don't walk into an interview and say, my intangible value is this. But this is something, writing it down is important for you to not only understand what your intangible value is, but also think of ways that you can demonstrate your intangible value when you are interviewing. So in other words, again, if my intangible value is that I'm creative and problem solving, how can I take advantage of the opportunity to demonstrate this throughout the interview? How am I going to slide this into a conversation? And this is something that you are going to proactively not only identify by writing it down, but also think of creative ways that you can demonstrate this skill so that the hiring manager and recruiter can clearly see that you have this value and this is what you bring to the organization. What accomplishments am I most proud of? This is important because it is important to, for the lack of a better word, gloat. You need to be proud of who you are and what you've done and what accomplishments that you have. If you don't do it, I promise you someone else will. So be proud of what you've done and be able to demonstrate your accomplishments throughout the interview process. Be prepared. It's almost like an arsenal, right? You come in knowing these are my top skills, these are my hard skills, my soft skills. I know my intangible value, and these are the accomplishments that I'm most proud of. But it goes a little beyond that. So not only your accomplishments that you're most proud of, but what do these accomplishments have to do with this position, right? How does it demonstrate my success? So think about your accomplishments, write those down, but then also write down how these accomplishments demonstrate your success in one area or another. So in other words, if one of your accomplishments might be that you completed a project with a team that there was just no possible way the deadline was almost passed and it was absolutely behind schedule, but yet you succeeded in making this happen, that might be a great story to share when it comes to teamwork leadership, or it could be project related question, right? So think about how your accomplishments, not only what your accomplishments are, but how is this relevant to the position that you're applying for? What parts make it relevant? Another tip and trick, every interview, before you walk in, part of your research is obviously reviewing the job description. We all know that's important, right? Take a look at the job description. We've already seen this when we applied for the position, right? Which is why we were invited for the interview in the first place. We took the time to apply for this position. Now we have the interview. But it doesn't stop there. Go back to the job description and take a look at it and create speaking points for each job responsibility. Do this before every interview. There's a couple reasons why you're going to do this. Number one is you're going to create speaking points so that you have something to talk about. Number two, there is no way to prepare for every interview question that may be asked, but you can put your mind at ease and you can ease your frustrations on interview by preparing properly for interview with speaking points that are designed around each of the bullet points listed within the job responsibility section. So if we look at this, this is a entry-level engineer opportunity, and the requirements are analyze business requirements to design, engineer, and build software solutions, develop systems in a variety of languages, and maintain high quality documentation. So the job responsibilities are clearly laid out here. And below this, as you can see, I've laid out instructions on what you should be writing down. So I want you to think back on your experience for every job responsibility. Go through bullet point by bullet point and write down, okay, so the first job responsibility is analyze business requirements. I have analyzed business requirements to design, engineer, and build software solutions for, and fill in your answer. So each job responsibility deserves a bullet point, an explanation, an example, or a speaking point. Speaking points will definitely help you to not only understand, not only be able to communicate to your hiring manager or recruiter in the interview how you've demonstrated your skills, but it'll also ease your frustration so that you have plenty to talk about during the course of the interview. Common interview questions are just, unfortunately, something that we can't get away from. So on every interview, there are, regardless of whether it's a hiring manager or whether it is a recruiter, you can bank on these are common questions that will be asked. Tell me about yourself will be asked on every interview. Every interview, every interview. So it doesn't matter if you've interviewed once with the hiring manager, next with the, once with the recruiter, the second round with the hiring manager, the third round with the director. He or she will ask this question every time. So tell me about yourself is a common interview question that you can expect to be asked. Why do you want to work for this company? Again, a common interview question that you can expect to be asked. Why should we pick you? What are you, and there's various versions of these questions too, right? Why do you want to work for this company usually comes out just like that. Why do you want to work for ABC company? Why do you want to work for us? Why should we pick you? There's a variety of ways that hiring managers might ask that, but it all boils down to the same thing. Why do you want to work here? What are your salary requirements? They want to know, are you in my budget? Are you not in your budget? Are you not in our budget, right? Can we afford you? Would it make sense to bring you on? Are you going to be happy in this position with this salary, earning this money? Tell me about a challenging project or situation that you have faced. And do you have any questions for me? So again, it starts with preparation and understanding that common interview questions will be asked. And again, while you can't prepare for every interview question, you could prepare for 10,000 interview questions and they will probably ask you one that you didn't prepare for. You can bank on common interview questions will be asked. So these are worth the time invested. All right, so let's start with tell me about yourself. How should you really answer this question? What should you include and what should you not include? This is probably, interestingly enough, this is the first question it's asked within typically the first 5 minutes or so of the interview. And this is where things either go great or they go terribly wrong. People have a tendency to talk about their past and start from, where they were born, what city, where they grew up, their background, their history, their family, their dog. I've seen it all. Don't do this. Briefly tell them about your professional self. So, when a hiring manager or recruiter asks this question, tell me about yourself, what they really mean is tell me about yourself as it relates to this position. And so, the information that you want to provide them is going to be strictly about your capabilities and your background as it relates to this position. So, again, briefly describe your professional self, who you are as a professional. You're going to summarize your experience, and depending on your experience, what that really means is starting with your most current experience and working backwards, right? So start with your most recent experience. Share an accomplishment. So what have you done? Again, we've already wrote down our accomplishments, hopefully. So what is an accomplishment that is related to this position that would make sense for me to share with this hiring manager or recruiter? And show your passion for the job. That is extremely important. They want to see that you want this job, that you have a desire, that you do want to work here. So demonstrating your passion, it needs to be conveyed when you're answering this question. So let's take a look at one of the examples. All right. So I recently graduated as a software developer, or excuse me, a software engineer from X University. As a student, I used Java and Python to design, test, and improve applications. I'm comfortable working in an agile environment. I recently co-created an innovative application to provide servers to thousands of users on social media platforms. I am passionate about software development and ready to use my skills and experience to help develop and maintain complex applications in a global team environment with a leading fintech organization like ABC. So there's an example that incorporates all: professional self, summarize experience, share an accomplishment, and shows your passion for the position. All right. Why do you want to work for this company? So again, we're going to walk through the steps of what is important to include in here. If there's any major takeaways that I want you to take away, it's what is on the side of the screen that explains what you want to include and what you don't want to include. So, what is most important as a hiring manager or recruiter? I want to know why you're genuinely interested in this company, right? You personally. So, why are you interested? Think of something that really does matter to you. Don't make it up here because it's going to be obvious. So, think about something where your passion again comes into it. Why are you really interested? In other words, if it's a major tech organization, don't just say because you guys are awesome at what you do and like you're a huge company and I want to be a part of it because I think you're cool. That's not going to help, right? Say something that is genuine, why you would genuinely feel passionate about this company. Remind them of your qualifications. So it's important. Why do you want to work for this company? Really translates to, again, what can you do for us, right? What do you bring to the table? And tell them you want the job finally. So let's take a look um, as an example answer here. So I have been following the fintech industry, and I'm really impressed by ABC Company's growth and expansion in the mobile banking segment. I'd love to be part of that growth. I'm confident my software development skills and experience will help me succeed in this role. If I'm given the opportunity to join ABC, I know I can greatly contribute to the team. All right, you have limited work experience. Why should we consider you? So again, this question is why you? Now, in this case, I modified it. for an individual who might not have that much work experience, but what can you do here? You have limited work experience. Why should we consider you for this position? Well, the first thing you can do is point out your academic success and accomplishments. So, what have you done in the past, again, that's considered a trait or value to this organization? Point out your personality traits, your drive, your ambitions, how they align with the company, and what you want to do. So, here's an example of a great way to answer this question. My past experience is limited, but my future potential is unlimited. At university, I worked hands-on with Java and C++ and developed innovative applications. I learned a lot about software development. Within just a few months, I was able to accomplish. So you're going to list one of your accomplishments. I'm eager to apply my knowledge and contribute to the team here at ABC Company. What are your salary requirements? This is probably one of my favorite questions. This question is bound to come up, right? It's just a given. It may come up early on in the process, it may come up later, but it's bound to happen. So, what can you do? Prepare for it. Conduct research ahead of time. Give a range that you're open to working with. Don't play a game here. So, if a hiring manager or recruiter is asking you your salary requirements, it is really best to provide a range, be it a wide range, and do your research in advance, but it's not best to go back and forth and play a game. A hiring manager has a job to do, a recruiter has a job to do. So give them an answer, but then let them follow up and let them ask, or excuse me, demand a question following. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. And let the interview know the salary is not the only factor. So again, while you are going to provide a range, you can also follow it up with, it's like a give and take, right? I will give you this range. However, I want you to know that that's not the only factor. So while salary is important, there are other factors that I would take into consideration when considering this offer. All right, so from researching this position online, I found that 80 to 95K is pretty typical base. But to be honest, I'm less concerned about salary and more interested in finding a long-term position where I can add value to my employer. Additionally, we haven't had the chance to discuss work hours, benefits, and other perks, so all of that would play a role. Is this salary within the range that you are seeking? All right. Situational interview questions. So, situational interview questions often begin with, give me an example of, tell me a time about. You can identify a situational question just by that beginning. So, give me an example of, or tell me about. Situational questions are bound to come up in the interview. Some examples of situational questions are, give me an example of your time that you've demonstrated teamwork, leadership, or tell me about a challenging project that you've had, right? So these are questions that are bound to come up. How do you answer these? There's a great process for answering these. I stick by this. I've stuck by this for years, and it is a clear, concise method and approach that you can use and incorporate into any situational question that you are asked, and it is called the STAR process. So, what does it stand for? STAR is S for situation, T for task, A for action, R for result. Your situation is your backstory. It is the shortest part of your answer when providing an answer. So backstory, what happened, right? You're laying the groundwork for it. It's the very first thing that you are going to describe when you're answering this question, and it should be the shortest portion of your answer. Task, what were you tasked with? What was the issue? What was the problem? What did you have to resolve? Okay. Action, what steps is really about your steps or the process that you took to resolve said issue. And this is going to be most important to the interviewer. When an interviewer asks a situational question, they care less about what the situation was and more about the process, your way of thinking, the steps that you took to resolve an issue. So the bulk of your story needs to be spent on explaining the process or steps that you took in resolving the challenge that you had. And finally, the result. What was the end result? If you can show that the end result saved the company or your team time, Money, um, customers, impact of the growth, led to some significant positive changes. These are all end results that are very encouraging to a hiring manager, right? So, an end result. What did this really do? How did this impact the team, the company, the organization, you, your department? What changes, what positive changes resulted in this? All right, so let's take a look at a situational question and a real life situational question. So tell me about a challenging project. What was the situation and how did you resolve it? So let's go ahead and apply our STAR methodology here. So in this case, we're going to talk again. Here's an example of the situation. My team was working on a certain project, right? We ran into, what was your challenge that you ran into? Task. So I was tasked with resolving whatever the problem was. If you notice, I didn't spend a whole lot of time here talking again about the situation and task, right? Because I know that the hiring manager doesn't really care. They need enough information to understand what the issue was, but they care more about the action steps. So, third, action. I took the following steps to resolve the issue. First, I did step one. Next, step two. And finally, I did walk them through your process. Walk them through the steps that you took to resolve the issue. This is the heart of the story, and this is where they care. They care to know what your process, your way of thinking, how you resolved the issue, what steps you took, and finally what the end result was, right? By following these steps, I was able to resolve the issue. The project was successfully completed on time and resulted in, and again, if you can convey that the end result saved time, money, resources, clients, customers, um, was beneficial to the company, to your department, to your team, to your organization, to your student body, then that is the end result that they're looking for. So, what happened? What was the effect? What was resolved? And what got better? All right. So, questions worth asking. What are some questions that are worth asking on every interview? Now, some are obvious, right? And so I tried to state the less obvious questions on here. And when should you be asking these questions? That's the bigger piece of it. So an interview should be a back and forth conversation. A back and forth conversation means that you don't wait until the end and then drill them with questions. These are questions that you can ask throughout the interview. And what is the benefit of that? Well, the more questions that you ask actually early on in the process, the more fuel for fire that you have when answering their questions and their hidden concerns. Imagine if you walked into the interview and you started asking some intelligent questions up front, what a difference that might make in the interview process. If you knew what their pain points were, and you knew how to address their major concerns, you knew what their problem was or their challenge or one of the big challenges that they faced early on in the interview, imagine how you could address that concern and really come out on top versus if you didn't know, if you didn't ask questions and you didn't dig deep into it early on, you wouldn't have that information to combat, right? Or to go back to. So these are questions that you could and should ask. Now, there are a lot of questions that you can ask throughout the interview, but these ones I think are particularly important in a variety of ways. So let's talk about the first one. Is this a newly created position, or would I be stepping into a role to fill a vacancy? So understanding if this is a new position or if you're filling somebody else's seat. Why is that important? Well, let's look at the follow-up question to this. So what are the new business requirements if this is indeed a new position, right? So ABC company says, yeah, no, you're not stepping into anybody's role. This is a brand new, it's a newly created position. Well, then you'd want to know, let's dig in deeper. Great. Okay. What are the new business requirements that are causing you to fill this position? Why is this important? Because you can better understand the direction that they're going in, right? What direction are they going in? There must be a need in this area. Why are they making an investment into this department, this company, this organization, this business unit? What's happening here that's positive, and what do I get to be a part of? Or in the case that it is a backfill or you're filling someone else's shoes, okay, what did the previous quality analyst do well? So first, let's find out what the person in this role before they left did well, right? What did they do good? And then finally, the tough question, what did he or she not do so well? When you ask this question, it's important that you sit back and you're quiet. Let them answer this question. Sometimes the interviewers are going to be blatantly honest and they're going to tell you all sorts of things. You know what? This is, she shined in this area, but not so much here. And we didn't realize when we hired her that she just didn't have the expertise that we needed. Typically, an interviewer will be pretty honest when they answer this question. The important thing is when they do answer it and they're talking about a negative, that you don't feed, you don't dwell on the negative. So nod your head in agreement and let them know, okay, so I understand what you're saying. What you're saying is, she did a great job in this area. Unfortunately, she didn't have the skills or the capability or the training that was really necessary to make improvements in this area. I can understand why that would be concerning to you. And by the way, I just wanted to let you know that I've spent the last year and a half studying XYZ, or I've spent the last year and a half working in this area. This in fact happens to be one of my area of expertise. So it's great to know that I will be valuable in that way. What are the most important qualities a person in this role should have? This is a question you should ask every person that you interview with. So what you're really saying is, tell me what I need to get the job here, right? What skills and experience do you really need me to have when I walk in the door? Who are you going to hire and what skills are they going to have that are necessary? Can you walk me through a typical day? That's an important question to ask for obvious reasons, so you can get a better understanding of what your day looks like from when you grab that first cup of joe in the morning all the way through the end of the day. What are the biggest challenges the team is currently facing, and can you give me an example of it? What are your expectations of me 30, 60, 90 days out? Guys, ask this question before it's asked of you. More often than not, recruiters and hiring managers will turn this question around to you. So they may ask you, what can we expect from you 30, 60, 90 days out? If you can get this out early, get it out early so that you can understand what's expected of you so that you can readily address this question when it comes full circle. And finally, what is the next step in the interview and selection process? So understanding where they're at in the interview process. Who are they interviewing right now? How many candidates are they considering? Are they in round 1? Are they in round 2? How many rounds are there? Who else will I be meeting with? What is the next step? Will I be coming in person? Or is this all going to be done over video conference? And when can I expect an answer? Are they going to fill it next week, next month, next year? So find out questions about the interview process and where they're at in it and what you can expect timeline-wise. All right. So what not to say? So while there's important things to say, there's also important things not to say. I have heard it all. Again, I have been a recruiter for 10 plus years and I've heard a lot of things. And so I actually have a saying, it's people never cease to amaze me. So I beg you, don't be one of those people. No, but really, so let's look at this. So what not to say? How much will I be paid? Salary is important, right? I know it's important to you, and it really is, and it should be addressed, and it will be addressed, but it shouldn't be addressed in that manner. So typically, if salary has not been brought up to you yet by the hiring manager or recruiter, it's because they aren't yet convinced that you are the right fit for the job. When that becomes apparent, that is addressed. Sometimes it is addressed early on in the recruiter process. And if it's addressed early on with that first round recruiter, then it becomes an elimination question. So if that question is asked in the first interview, it is what we call an elimination question, which is why the range that you provided them or provide them is extremely important, right? So asking, how much will I be paid? Not a wise move. Let that question come naturally. It will be addressed. I promise you it's not going to go unaddressed. They're not going to say, congratulations, welcome aboard. By the way, we're going to pay you this amount. Hope you like it. That's not going to happen. So let it come up naturally as opposed to bringing it up yourself. All right. So then what will I be doing again? So again, when you come into this interview, it's important to ask questions about what a typical workday would look like. But asking what will you be doing in the interview kind of it really makes the hiring manager wonder if you did your research, if you know why you're here, and quite frankly, if you're at all interested in the position. So there are much more intelligent ways to ask this question, like we covered earlier. What is a typical workday like? I don't really have a weakness. So sometimes this question comes up. What is a what is your weakness? If that question comes up, be honest, provide a weakness that is not going to impact your ability to succeed or not succeed in this position. But never tell a hiring manager or recruiter that you don't have a weakness. If this question does come up, do you have a weakness? You need to, again, you need to address it by providing them with a real weakness that does not impact your ability to perform in this role, right? And you need to address why this is your weakness and what you are doing to improve, or how you are making improvements rather in this area. So recognizing it, calling it a weakness, call it what it is. It is a weakness, how you're aware of it, and how you're making an improvement. But to say that you don't have a weakness or that you wouldn't really consider this a weakness is not a good answer. So don't answer it that way. Can I start next month, or can I push the start date out? There's nothing more frustrating than when a hiring manager or recruiter believes in you and they're convinced that they want to offer you this position, and they come back and say, you know what, we would really like to offer you this job, but and I just want to make sure that a start date of XYZ would work for you. And that person comes back and says, yeah, I mean, like I could start then, but so I have vacation time from my last job. And I was kind of hoping, or I have this trip I've been planning, and I was kind of hoping that should have already been taken care of early on. So, in other words, if that question came up early, what is your availability to start? And you said, I am able to start in a month from now. That's perfectly fine. You've already conveyed that early into the process. But if this is coming up in the latter part when they're prepared to offer you a position, then it becomes a problem. It becomes discouraging, and you're starting on a bad note. All right. So if it wasn't for Krishna, I wouldn't be looking for a job. Yeah, this is definitely a no-no. So again, passing the buck or placing blame or any negative talk should be avoided. So while this may be true, it may be somebody else's fault that you are looking for a job. And it's just a fact. We've all worked with people or for organizations or had challenges in the past, but it's not something that you want to bring up on the interview, right? So that part should be left out. Same thing goes with my hiring manager or team. If they were more supportive, I would have stayed. Again, while this may be true, it is definitely not something that you want to bring up in the interview in this way. Um, you can, however, let them know that support is important to you, right? That you work that you do well and you thrive in an environment that is filled with camaraderie and teamwork. That is a great way to demonstrate your likes and your needs when working with a team. But again, stay away from the negative talk. So if I didn't work so many hours, I wouldn't be looking for a position. Again, stay away from the negative talk. If you didn't work so many hours, what that tells me as a hiring manager is, so she's never going to work overtime. And if I ever need her to, that's going to be a challenge. And I don't know if I'm going to need her to, but I might. And if I do at some point, I'd like to know that I could count on her. So she's out. So again, it may be that you worked 80, 90, 120 hours a week, right? And that may be true, but there's a better way to address that concern by asking about the hours up front to get a better idea and perception of what it is that is expected of you, as opposed to talking negatively about your past work experience. And how soon will I be promoted? So again, you can ask this question. There's a better way to ask it. You can ask this question in terms of, what does the career path look like for me? Or what would the career path of a software developer, an entry-level software developer, look like here at ABC Company. I am so excited about this position. I know that I can do extremely well in it. At some point further down the road, I'd like to continue to grow with ABC Company, and I'd like to know what that career path would look like. That's a great way to address it. What you're saying is, I'm coming in super excited and pumped about this position. I like this position. I intend to stay here for a long time, and I'd like to know what my career path is. But how soon will I be promoted? Really begs the question of, is this a stepping stone? Are you going to be happy and content in this position? Or are you just taking this for the title and then moving on really quick? All right. And finally, the thank you email. So it is so incredibly important to send thank you notes. Send a thank you note. It makes a big difference. What should you include in the thank you note? Well, thank you notes should be, number one, sent out within 24 hours. Number two, sent out to all parties involved in the process. When I say all parties, I really mean all parties. So that recruiter that set up the interview with the hiring manager deserves a thank you note. It may be short and brief, but even a simple thank you is more important to recognize their part and their piece that they played into this, right? What I've done here is shown you an example of a thank you note, and this is a pretty basic one, but the truth is, the idea behind it should be that you have a personalized message. So you're recalling some sort of events from the conversation that you had during the interview itself. So you want to thank the interviewer for interviewing you, right? For meeting with you today or yesterday. Personalize your message with something that happened on the interview. Tell them you want the job. This is so incredibly important. People leave this out of thank you notes all the time. Tell them you want the job. It's incredibly important to say that. Thank them again for their time. So yes, we're thanking them twice here, but why? Because they interviewed you, for one, and for two, they invested their time into taking the time out of their day to meet with you. So it's important to bring that up. Tell them you value your time and you're thankful for it. Offer up additional information. What else can I provide you to make it easier on you to make a hiring decision here, right? Is there anything that I can give you? References, any resources, any information that I can do to make your job easier to make a decision on how you're going to hire and who you're going to hire. And finally, provide your contact information. Even though you might think, well, they already have my contact information. I mean, they have my resume. Why not make it easier on them? So providing your phone number, your email address, make it easy on them. All right, so we have an example of a thank you note here. Hi, Mr. Jones. Thank you so much for interviewing me for the position with ABC Company. I really enjoyed learning more about the team and the position. I especially enjoyed our conversation about, and again, whatever the specifics to the conversation. Here's a tip for you. When you get out of your interview, sit down in your car or sit down at your desk if it's video, write down some specifics that were discussed during the interview so that you can convey this information in your thank you note, right? What really meant a lot to you. It should be something specific maybe that you talked about that meant something to you. So after our conversation, I'm even more excited about this opportunity, if that's even possible. I appreciate the time you took to interview me, and I look forward to having the opportunity to meet you in person. So this is based again on the idea that you have done a video interview. Obviously, if you've met this person in person, or if you've met this individual in person already, you can change this. Or you could say, I look forward to the next step in the interview process, if you know for a fact that there is another step in the interview process, right? So change this based on the circumstance. If you need additional information from me, please feel free to contact me at any time. Thank you for your time and consideration, sincerely, and your contact information. All right, so there's a basic thank you note. When do you send thank you notes? Again, within 24 hours. Who do you send thank you notes to? Everybody that's involved in the process. Should you do this on every time? Yes, absolutely. Why? Because it can make the difference between you and another candidate who didn't follow up. Hiring managers really do appreciate this, and so do recruiters as well. It can make a difference. Just do it. Send thank you notes. Before the end of the interview, get business cards, get contact information, email addresses, business cards, phone numbers, all of that information so that you have what you need to send out your thank you notes. All right. And so I hope that you've enjoyed my presentation today, and hopefully I gave you some tips and tricks that you can do in preparation for interviews. What I'd like to do now is just turn it over to any questions that you have. There are no demo questions here. If you have a question or concern, I'd love to address it. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what type of questions that we have today.
Awesome, Heather. Thank you so much for that. That was so good, and I even learned so much. So much really,
Wonderful.
really, really good information. So we do actually have a pretty good amount of questions here.
Well, fire away.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna fire away here in the order that I received them.
Okay.
So one of the questions is how to make your technical resume stand out in today's world.
That's a good question. So your technical resume, obviously, the difference between having a technical versus non-technical resume, obviously demonstrating your skills and abilities is important, but also having clearly defined projects and examples. So I don't know what your work situation and how much work experience that you have, but and really, honestly, this holds true for technical and non-technical positions. You really need to uh, carve out not only your technical stack, but also provide specific examples of how you've demonstrated your skills, right? Also, keep this in mind too. So, what is going to make the difference between your resume versus someone else is eliminating all the unnecessary information. So, if you have technical skills and abilities that don't and are not relevant to the environment or the position that you're pursuing, minimize that information and maximize the information that is relevant to the core technology stack that's going to be used at ABC company that you're interviewing with, right? So that's important. The other thing I'd recommend too, if you want to check out our examples, we do have some technical resumes you can check out at FindmyProfession.com to give you examples of layouts if you have concerns there.
Awesome, thanks, Heather. Yeah, and I'm putting up a short link to Find My Profession's website for anyone that wants to go there and check it out. And I actually see that two questions kind of rolled up into something that you mentioned as well. I've actually done a fair amount of interviewing for different positions, automated software testing, software development, and I feel like it's common in the industry to receive like 4 to 6 page resumes. And I personally get frustrated with those because they are so big and long, and it kind of adds on what you said, focus on only the stuff that's relevant for the
Yes.
position. So just to make it clear for everyone, yeah, how do you feel about sending really large resumes that have the entire work history of everyone? And what would you recommend would be the appropriate resume length?
Sure. 1 to 2 pages is an appropriate resume length, regardless of whether you have 5 years, 2 years, 20 years of experience. So 1 to 2 pages max. So again, it falls back on eliminating the unnecessary information that's not relevant to the position, shortening and tightening it up, and keeping a clear, defined focus on what your objective is. So what position that you're targeting, how you can demonstrate your skills and limit it to that. 4 to 5 is just too much. I know you've done a lot, and I know you have a lot to say, and you really want to include everything. And it may be a way for you to share that additional information in person, right? Or provide information if you really feel like you want to share it as a follow-up to maybe an interview. It'd be a great way to reach back out to the hiring manager and say, hey, by the way, I just wanted you to know that that I have some additional work like examples that I can share with you, and I wanted to send those over for you to review and take a look at. That's fine, that's great, but not on your resume itself. Your resume is not going to land you the interview or land you the position. You are going to land the position. Your resume is going to hopefully capture the attention of your audience and hold their attention. And if it's 4 to 5 pages, you're not holding their attention. So they need to have a brief amount of information so that they can turn around and ask you for additional information. It's just a taste of what you're like, right? So it's an outline that describes, that begs them for more information. It should be openly inviting for them to ask you some additional follow-up. And if it's 4 to 5 pages, my gut tells me you're providing your whole story. Don't do that. Save some for the interview.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And I personally myself, when I do interviews of technical candidates, I will actually deduct points from someone that sends me more than 2 pages simply because it's kind of what you said. I feel like they didn't take the time to focus their resume on the current position, and I felt that they were lazy. So in my mind, they already start behind someone that sends me like a 1 or 2 page resume.
Yeah, absolutely. Less is
Um,
best.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome to hear that from a true professional because I blogged about it myself, but I'm not an expert in hiring like you all are.
You're right on.
Um, Another one here is how to clear the technical interview round.
How to clear the, so I'm not sure I fully understand this question. How to clear the technical interview round. Um, so the technical interview round is going to be about obviously your competencies in those key areas, right? My suggestion, and I can't tell, again, it depends on the questions or concerns that they have, but I can tell you this. Again, the technical interview round is going to be more about how you've demonstrated your skills and if you're capable or not, right? Like, for instance, if you don't have experience coding in one language or another and they require it, well, unfortunately, you just don't have it. It is what it is. It's a requirement. You can show that you have worked in or that you have experience in maybe a different language and that you pick up technology quickly. But the truth is, the technology based questions are going to be, they're not trick questions. It's either a yes or no. How can you prepare for those in advance, though? Well, LinkedIn is your best friend there. Guess what? You can go to the company webpage. You can look up people who are currently in that business unit. Take a look at their core technology stack. What experience do they have? What do they list any information about the technology stack that they currently use at that company and what they do in their specific roles? So look at your coworkers. Who would be your new coworkers in this position? Look at people in that business unit, people that you might report up to, subordinates, people that you'd work side by side with. Try to get a better understanding and even consider reaching out to those individuals on LinkedIn to find out more about their team, their environment, what they currently do, and how they use that technology. Find out all that you can before you walk in to that technology round interview. I hope that helps.
I think that was really awesome, Heather. I really like your suggestion about potentially even reaching out to them because I feel like if someone reached out to me and asked me about, and that's actually happened, they've reached out to me and asked me about the work environment, I already
Okay.
felt like they were more interested in the position than someone else that didn't. And so they were kind of starting off on a positive note.
Absolutely. It's impressive, right? It's like,
Yeah.
wow, this individual really cares. They're doing their due diligence and the research, and they're actually taking the time to better understand what it is that we do here. And they're interested in me, right? Because you're going to make that conversation about them. I'd love to know more about what you do at ABC Company. I'm really interested in finding similar positions, or I'm interested in working here, or I have an interview. Be honest with them. Tell them you have an interview. They're going to be impressed by it.
That's awesome. Cool. Let's do one more because I know you're already hanging out with us. 20 minutes more
I
than
don't mind
this
hanging
kid.
out. I'm
No?
glad to be here.
Okay, cool. We'll do one last question so we can uh,
Perfect.
let everybody be free. And I think this is a really good one because the nice thing about the IT industry is we can work all over the world. And now, especially with the whole COVID situation, kind of we have people from all over the world working in many different positions. And so someone was asking, is it a problem in an interview that we aren't a native speaker? And I guess they mean a native English speaker.
Again, it depends on the position. So it depends on the hiring manager's requirements. I wouldn't necessarily count yourself out unless it's clearly written into the job description that you have to be a native speaker and that you have to have 100% stellar communication skills and English needs to be your first language. I would never hesitate to apply to the position. The hiring manager or recruiter is going to make that blatantly clear on whether or not that how much how important that piece is. So they are going to communicate that in the interview process, and they will let you know, hey, there's a language barrier here. We have some concerns because because of this issue. But if it's not written in the job description, if it doesn't clearly convey that that is absolutely essential, or that again that English needs to be your first language, then by all means, I wouldn't hesitate to apply, and I wouldn't consider that uh, an issue at all. So good question.
Okay, awesome. Well, Heather, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us here today. I
My
think
pleasure.
everybody has learned a lot. I know I learned a lot. It was so much valuable information that I honestly haven't seen before in just from my different research on kind of how to interview better. So it was really good. Thank you.
Wonderful. Pleasure to be
For
here.
everyone else, this will be posted. This is recorded, and so all of you guys will receive a link to it for the future, just in case you do want to reference it. And anyone else that didn't join will also get a link. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining, for your time, and thanks again for Heather from Find My Profession. You can learn more about her and all of their services at findmyprofession.com. Bye everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.